Welcome to Meet the Candidate. I'm Bianca Mewborn, freelance journalist and contributing correspondent to the Daily Reflector and the Standard newspapers. And today I'm with Ed Beiner Jr., candidate for the Town of Grifton Board of Commissioners. Ed, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I am awesome. Tell me about yourself.
Like you said, my name's Ed Beiner Jr. I live in Grifton. I've been there 11 years now since the end of this past August. So just a couple of weeks we celebrated 11 years, my wife and my family. We have a son, Richie. He's now 6 going on 7, so he is basically being raised in Grifton, And I've actually been in North Carolina now 20 years. Moved down in 2005 with some family. They live in Kinston. My grandmother came with us. Just enjoy my town. I do enjoy those family town, as it's called. As I've gotten to know people, the community is really great, and I enjoy volunteering with, different organizations in town, Shad Festival, events like that. And I just do my own stuff too sometimes. I've organized a co-ed adult softball game last year with a couple of friends. We got that together, played about 3 games. I've done community cleanup days. I've organized outdoor movie nights at the park. All events I do want to try and do again going forward. Just sometimes life gets busy and we sometimes just don't have time to do that stuff. But I enjoy doing that, and for anyone that's watching that's seen a guy walking around town pulling a wagon, picking up litter, that's me. That wagon and me are pretty much known at this point.
And why are you interested in being a town commissioner in Grifton?
Well, like I said, I serve on the SHAG committee as a volunteer. I volunteer with other organizations, just doing the litter pickup. And I thought, what better way to serve my community even more than to run for commissioner and hopefully be elected by my community, my constituents, my community, my family. I'm going to call it, that's what we're about, the family town. So that's, why I'm running is I want to serve everybody in a bigger way than just some of the small stuff sometimes. But the small stuff adds up,
What are some of your strengths? Can you speak to those?
Oh, some of my strengths are just having that sense of community pride. Listening to my neighbors. I have posted on Facebook. Some people have probably seen it, some people haven't if they're not on Facebook, but I love to go to my fence and talk to my neighbor next door about just anything, stuff going on in town, stuff that's concerning town. I will say it right here, right now, the big topic is always water, whether standing water or water pressure issues in your house. That's always a big topic, and that's a big topic of my neighbors. She always talks about the drainage, and we've met at the fence. I've told her some of the stuff the town manager is working on, the infrastructure. We've also walked up and down the street looking at where we do have some ditches, canals, whatever, blocked. But, I like to talk to people. I do like to have what I call is those coffee table chats. Whether it's going to a fence, meeting at a coffee shop, meeting just anywhere. The steps of the train depot in Grifton. I'll meet anybody there if they want to sit down and just talk for a few minutes. Or if I run into somebody at Food Pride, I'll talk to anybody about topics going on, and even on the phone, give me a call. I'll video chat. I'll talk to you on the phone. But I do always enjoy those face-to-face. I think that's where we learn more about each other and what our concerns are.
Right. Ed, why should the citizens of Grifton vote for you?
I've been in town, I've lived in town 11 years. I know if you're native to the area, you're known. But I think I've made some good friends that know that I have the interest of the town in my heart, that I want to see the town grow. Everyone sits there and they can complain about it, about how things are, but there's only one way of fixing it or trying to fix it, and that's to get involved. And running for commissioner is one way to get involved. I can learn and work with the town manager of things we can and can't do, because it's easy to say what we want done, but there are things that don't allow that to be done for reasons.
Right.
We have to see all sides of the story, and that's why I want to run. I want to know what's going on. I want to be involved in making the decisions. Hey, we can do X, Y, Z to make Queen Street, Main Street in town, look better. Okay, how can we do this? what are our limitations? How do we get it going? Because that's one big complaint we hear is, how dreary I've heard the town looks. And we have a couple of people in town that are working on renovating a building. It looks very nice on the outside. I'm not sure if they're done on the inside, but it's a step in the right direction, along with some of the infrastructure things the town manager has talked about at town hall meetings that we need to fix. We're taking steps in the right direction, but I want to be a part of getting us to the next level of that.
Can you describe a time you had to face a challenging situation?
Oh, it's just about almost every day in work. I've worked in retail for 20 plus years of my life. I've had to deal with just irate customers about something, whether they ain't like the price, it's a part. I was in auto parts for 20 years and have to deal with people that, the parts failed numerous times. So we got to make them happy. I got to, work with them, talk with them, learn the solutions, keep a even keel mindset, because that's the best thing to do, is stay calm in those situations and talk. So yeah, I've faced over 20 years in retail management experience, numerous difficult situations.
Ed, what do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in Grifton?
We need to continue to work on the water issues. We have houses coming into town. I know a section of the Grifton that's called the Country Club. I've seen posts on Facebook, and I've asked the town manager, why are they having water pressure issues in their house? And the simple answer is, and it makes sense, they're uphill, where our water pumps are that delivers that water to them are downhill. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be, I don't know if the right term is a booster, but something needs to be placed with the water pumps to boost the pressure to go uphill. I mean, you can't swim upstream easily. And we still, like I said, the standing water issues. A lot of our neighbors have voiced their displeasure with yards getting flooded. I've witnessed it. First 2 or 3 years I lived in Grifton, my yard was pretty much dry after bad rainstorms. Then some things started changing. And
what changed?
They logged a field between St. Joseph Street and Casey Drive.
Oh, so development.
It was before development, actually. They just logged it. I don't know if a company bought the land or who owned the land, but they logged it for whatever reason. And it was like after that, we had a couple of bad rainstorms, and there's just standing water in the yard. I'm like, trees soak up water. So development will cause that. And I know we've had somebody that lives in some of the new development houses between St. Joseph and Casey. They came to a town hall meeting, I remember beginning of the year, if I'm not mistaken, where they had water come into their new house. I do know those houses, looking at them, are kind of built ground level, at least, I don't want to say the older houses, but the houses built in like the DuPont era, as they refer to it. They're higher up. These new houses look to be, on level land. But one of my neighbor's concerns is that we walked down our street, and she showed me the route that goes to like a retention pond, a ditch back there. So something is not letting water flow easily or get to that pond. So I don't know if it's on our end, on St. Joseph, it's there. If it could be, it's probably a combination of a lot of neighborhoods trying to go water going to one area.
Well, that brings me to my next question. Should the town of Grifton be encouraging building and development?
I think we should, but I wonder sometimes, have we not looked at the infrastructure in depth prior to allowing it? I mean, I'll say this, I can't remember if it was about 8-9 years ago, they repaved all the streets in town, if I'm not mistaken. So it's probably a couple of years after I lived in Grifton. And I tell you, I think every street had one hole dug up in it to fix a water leak after those streets got repaved, and like right away. I mean, so I don't know if, and I know the town has had companies come in, they've done surveys on people's houses, find out who has lead pipes, galvanized pipe, what type of pipes are running into the house, especially part of the new water meter project that's going on. So I know at least we're taking steps to identify some of these things now. And I think personally, I think our town manager, who's about 7 to 8 months on the job, has done a great job of getting into these details and looking at these things, these topics like water. like I said, I've talked to him about it, and he's told me some things about, and like I said, he's mentioned at town hall meetings about the pump stations, and they're being held together at certain parts of them with fire hose.
You're speaking of Dylan Heyman, the new town manager of Grifton.
Dylan. Yeah, and so he's, identified some of this stuff, and he's just recently, I have a fire hydrant in my front of my house. I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess, to have a fire hydrant in their front yard, and he called me up, he said, hey, just want to let you know, we're in your yard right now, flushing the fire hydrant out. He goes, I don't know the last time this was done. He goes, these things need to be done a couple times a year. And so he's on top of stuff like that. I know our new utilities manager, I think his name is Greg. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but they're getting on top of it. I think it was his last town hall meeting in August, if not maybe July. They mentioned how, with some of the flooding issues, instead of the utilities department calling it a day, sitting in the shop, whatever, going home, he had those guys out there. Let's go look at this road where it's flooded. Let's see what's going on. So I think they're taking the right steps, and I want to help work with them and take the right steps to make sure our citizens understand why certain things are done at certain times. And that goes back to those fence, coffee table chats.
And what part of town would receive more attention if you were elected?
That's a good question. I would almost say my backyard, to be honest with you. I would like to, get the standing water issues taken care of, because it doesn't just affect my street. It affects St. David, it affects Casey, it affects Cottonwood, Dogwood. It's going to affect the new development, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think the street that's going to run between Wall Street and Church Street, it's going to be called Pollock Street, if I'm not mistaken. So, and the country club, everybody's, that whole area, it's just water, is the biggest topic, and I think we need to focus on that, get that.
Regarding the drainage.
The drainage, just let's see, and I know they, like I said, I know the town and utilities is working on it, but we still need to, maybe we need to lobby with our state legislator for more support or more funding or grants or something along those lines to get a project done to help alleviate that standing water, because I've seen pictures. We've all seen the pictures.
Can you tell me about a time where you had to work with a difficult colleague?
I would say just about almost over the past 20 years. I mean, you always have somebody in auto parts, retail, you always have people you don't see eye to eye with, but at the end of the day, it's about working as a team. Mm-hmm. I don't want to, let's say if I don't get along with somebody on the board, that doesn't, it's going to be about what's best for Grifton. It's not going to be, okay, I don't like you, so I'm just going to be this way with you. No, we're going to still be a team. We have to be a team. At the end of the day, it's going to be about the Grifton and the community. It's not about, my own ego on that. We have to get along. We have to come together and work together is my thing. And that's how I, approached it for 20 years in retail and auto parts is, I may not like somebody I work with, but at the end of the day, we're a team and we have a goal.
And your votes may not always align. It could be split.
Correct. Yeah, votes may not align. I may think differently than the commissioner to the right, the left, the mayor, whoever it might be. At the end of the day, I vote the way I'm going to vote. It's because I feel like it's going to be what's best for my community. And we can talk about it in private if we want to have it out with each other for whatever reason. We don't need to have it in a public forum, obviously. Sometimes those don't look good.
Can you describe a situation where you had to prioritize multiple tasks?
I mean, just being in retail management, like I said, I was in charge of making schedules, inventory, profit. I have to figure out which is always the most important, is making the sales, putting the right people, so I had to figure out what do I need to focus on today. And I'll go back to the community is going to be what is always going to be at the top, but those are the times where, just in my management experience, I just always have to look at what we have going on in a day and sometimes just adjust the task too.
Ed, what is your proudest accomplishment?
I would have to say, there's so many things that come to mind. I mean, I'll just go right back to organizing with friends, outdoor movie night, organizing cleanup day for the community. I think we did 2 of those, if I'm not mistaken. It might have just been 1. Organizing the softball game last year. Just those events. I mean, those things come to my mind right away. It's just bringing something to the community that it's to bring the community together, but just something to give the community to not have that there's nothing to do in Grifton. There is stuff to do. We just got to work at it, and it takes a small group of people to do it, and that's how it always goes. And then also just volunteer with SHAG committee. That at the end of the events, I go home and I take a breath, and I'm like, the smile on the citizens' faces, the community's faces, was what made all the sacrifice worth it.
Ed, if elected, what is your primary goal to accomplish during your term?
I would like to have more communication from the board with the community. I really would like to see the community trust the board more. I look around the room at the board meetings, and it's the same people showing up to attend. It's the same, I can almost name them. It's about 10 people, and I can almost name them all now because it's just the same group every meeting. Everyone thinks attending the meetings is not worth it because the board doesn't care, is what I've heard.
That's what they think.
That's what some of the citizens in the community think. The board does not care, is what they think. I've heard people say, I've gone up there, spoke, and nothing happens, nothing changes. So I think there needs to be a little bit more interaction, more good faith between the board, maybe a little bit more trust with, the citizens need a little bit more trust, know that their concerns are being heard, rather than I just go up there, speak for 5 minutes, and I don't hear anything. Now, it also,
Are you referring to during public comments?
During the public, yeah, the 5 minutes. I mean, I notice you go up there for 5 minutes, you can say whatever you want, and you may or may not get a response, is how it goes. But I think there needs to be more interaction, not just in a public hearing setting. If I know on the action items, maybe that's going to be for the board's time, unless they want to talk to somebody that's part of that action item. But I think outside of public hearing, there still needs to be a little bit more interaction so that you get a feel for the situation more so than you do just sitting there listening and then that person leaves. I've heard it from a few people. I said my piece and left because it's like no one really wanted to talk to me.
Well, they do read a disclaimer before public comments that the board does not have to answer or give any type of action, that it's just your time to speak. But I can understand what you mean by not getting any type of response. What community involvement have you had in the past 5 years? You spoke a bit earlier about some of that.
Yeah, like I said, I just walk around with my family picking up litter at my free will. That's one of the biggest community involvements I've had over the past 5 years. I've also was with a group that did Arts in the Park. It was about a 2-year event that went on in the spring and the fall. It brought local vendors, craft vendors, stuff like that, music, live music, food trucks, just a day in the afternoon on a Sunday. I think we did it the first Sunday of the month. We did that for a couple of years, and I got on with the SHAG committee, like I said. Other than the movie nights and all the other events.
I see you're wearing an Eat Mo Shad t-shirt.
I don't think you're not allowed to not wear one or something like that anymore if you live in Grifton long enough. Actually, I counted the other day. I almost have one for every day of the week. But, just that's what, the past 5 years. And then running for commissioner 2 years ago, which I was up against some stiff competition because I wanted to start serving the community back then in the commissioner role. But, some good folks won that election.
What can you tell me about your run for commissioner the last election?
It was a good experience. I actually had fun with it. I was up against a friend, Jesse Dagenall, who's the current commissioner, and Will Barnes, and Angela Gay was another one that was running, and my favorite part was Jessie, how she posts on Facebook, and I would just come up with some counter post to poke fun at her or something,
All in good fun.
All in good nature, I was having fun with it, and that's the thing about it. I want to have fun with running. I don't want it to be national politics like stuff. This is I just want to have fun like I did 2 years ago, and that's why I'm out here just trying
a nice, good, clean campaign.
Yeah, clean campaign. I'm not going to talk bad about anybody. I'm not going to, my posts on Facebook, if you follow me and see me, it's going to be about me. It's going to be about me and the community. It's not going to be about my opponents, because, if I got a problem with them, we can talk face to face about that. I'm not going to, it's not worth being mudslinging contest.
And how do you think the city council should interact with staff?
I think they should be just reaching out to them. Just, I'll give a good example. I was out in my yard one day. I think I was cutting my grass or doing something like that, and they would come around and read the water meters. And one guy's in the truck, one guy's in the back, and I was like, "Hey, no, don't worry about it." Joking around, but I just take a few moments to talk to them. Just let them know that I appreciate what they're doing, no matter what. And I tell them that. I try to tell them that. I try to tell our police department that too when I, at events and just at meetings. I just, I think that's the biggest interaction that you can have, is just being polite to them, making them feel like they are a part of the team. Because that's the only way we, like I said, I'll always go back to team. No matter what your role is on the team, you're still important.
Right.
Be, so the guy sitting in the back of the truck in 100-degree weather is just as important as the guy sitting on the board. They live in town. These guys and girls live in town, most of them. So they're just as important. And just talking to them, interacting with them is the way I like to, back to that fence and that coffee table.
Right. Members of the city council are frequently criticized in a very public way. If you are subject to public criticism, how would you react or respond to that?
My wife posted something on Facebook about how I will look at all sides of an argument or a situation. I've been called out on Facebook, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to respond there. I don't think a mudslinging contest behind a keyboard is the way to go.
Oh no, I wholeheartedly get it. I will not come off my chariot and throw tomatoes with you.
If we can talk about it and hopefully come to a conclusion of okay, this is why I did this, that you got upset with me, but I'm going to talk to you over the phone or face to face. I'm going to stay as calm as I can. You're not going to see me publicly lash out at somebody in that manner. I may talk to my friends in private, may vent to somebody in private, but at the end of the day, I'm going to just, let's say it's just I made a decision to vote one way that people didn't agree. We can sit down privately and talk about it, and I will tell you why I voted that way. I'm not going to, like I said, we see so much on Facebook that's so much back and forth negative,
right,
mudslinging, and it's not a good forum. I know our current mayor, Billy Ray Jackson, he, as far as I know, he doesn't do much social media, and sometimes I sit there and go, how can you not do it? Because it is a good communication device, but now I can see why sometimes. I mean, I already get criticism sometimes for some of the stuff I do now anyway. And I just keep on rolling with the punches and keep on going.
Like water off a duck's back.
Yep.
Well, Ed, if there's anything else that you would like to express or convey directly to the citizens of Grifton, please take this time to do so.
I really do hope I will earn your trust and earn your vote. My goal is to help our town grow. Like I said, I've lived in Grifton for 11 years. I really don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. My family set down roots there. Like I said, my wife and I, Crystal, we have a son. He's now going to be 7 years old, so that means he's been living here in Grifton just about 7 years. He's got some good friends. I've made some good friends. My wife's made some good friends. I really enjoy the community, and that's the reason why I'm running. Is I want to serve the community more than what I already do, and I know it's a tough job. I don't want to say job, but it's a tough position. It's a tough role. I got people who go, "Why do you want to do it?" And I say, I don't really know, but I just can't think of a better way to serve this community more than I already am.
Ed Beiner Jr., candidate for the Town of Grifton Board of Commissioners. Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. I'm Bianca Mewborn. Have a great day.